It is purport. It is not possible to comprehend the greatness of Krishna and his opulences. The senses of individual soul are limited and do not permit him to understand the totality of Krishna's affairs. Still, the devotees try to understand Krishna, but not on the principle that they will be able to understand Krishna fully at any specific time or in any state of life. Rather, the very topics of Krishna are so relishable that they appear to the devotees as nectar. Thus, the devotees enjoy them. In discussing Krishna's opulence and his diverse energies, the pure devotees take transcendental pleasure. Therefore, they want to hear and discuss them. Krishna knows that living entities do not understand the extent of his opulence. He therefore agrees to state only the principal manifestation of his different energies. The word pradhanayata, principle, is very important because we can understand only a few of the principal details of the Supreme Lord, for his features are unlimited. It is not possible to understand them all, and Vibhuti, as used in this verse, refers to the opulences by which he controls the whole manifestation. In the Amara Kosha dictionary, it is stated that Vibhuti indicates an exceptional opulence. The impersonalist or the pantheist cannot understand the exceptional opulences of the Supreme Lord nor the manifestations of his divine energies. Both in the material world and the spiritual world, his energies are distributed in every variety of manifestation. Now, Krishna is describing what can be directly perceived by the common man. Thus, part of his variegated energy is described in this way. Okay. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, just a quick recap. This chapter was divided into 4 sections. The first section was all about understanding Krishna's unknowability and knowing that we can't know him fully, yet there is an opportunity for us to engage in his service so we can then get to know him a little bit. Section 2, which is from text 8 to 11, is the Chaturshloki section, which is the most important verses from Bhagavad Gita. And in section 3 is all about Arjuna accepts Krishna's position and requests to hear more of his opulences. And now as we transcend to the last section, which is the text section starting with text 19 all the way to text 42, it is describing Krishna's opulences, and Krishna describes the most prominent among his limitless and all-pervading opulences. So he names his opulences and then explains that these opulences simply indicate a fraction of his glory, because he pervades and supports the entire universe with a mere fragment of his total potency. So far, this is the theme. So why Arjuna wants to hear more about the all-pervading divine opulences of Krishna was the summary of text 16 to 18. Because he was saying that Arjuna is already satisfied with the understanding of Krishna and has no doubt about Krishna's position. But we see here, therefore, he's asking for the following reason. So let's see very carefully. Let's try and understand. Well, Krishna, one, he's a devotee. He actually knows a lot about Lord Krishna. Even he can't know completely. But let's see what other reasons are being described in the last sort of 3 or 4 texts, actually, mainly in text 16 through 18, why Arjuna is asking Krishna to describe his opulences. So the first reason is for the sake of common people. Srila Prabhupada comments on this. He says, on behalf of the common people, and especially the impersonalist who do not believe in the personal form of the Lord. Because when you understand the opulence, you have to through that opulence, you have to come up with some kind of an identity which represents that personality. So that brings a element of being personal. So that is why not only for common people, but even for impersonalists' sake, Krishna, Prabhupada is establishing this point that that's why as Arjuna is asking, who in particular concerns themselves with all the pervading nature of the Supreme. The second reason why, again, he's explaining is for the sake of materialist. People, we are attached to our material attachment, but we also want to know how a materialist who's absorbed in physical things can see Krishna manifested by physical representation. What a beautiful point. So one may think, oh, it's a very high philosophy, Prabhu, I can't understand. But no, here Srila Prabhupada is giving us an opportunity. You may be an impersonalist, we may be attached to sense gratification, yet we can have some access and appreciate Lord Krishna and his wonderful opulences. So it is a very wonderful, there are some really good points to be noted here when you're sharing Krishna consciousness with others, either giving a talk, speaking to your friend, giving them a book of Bhagavad Gita. You should be able to remember these some nice nuances which Bhagavad Gita helps people understanding. It's made for everybody. It's not just for one class of people. It's a book. It's a universal book. So, and then the third point is for personal absorption. Arjuna wants to know, how shall I constantly think of you? So Arjuna understands, oh, Lord is the supreme personality of Godhead, but now I want to make Lord as the meditation of my rest of my life. So obviously then Arjuna will be interested in finding more about Krishna. And then he wants to taste the nectar because he wants to hear more and more and taste the nectar. As we heard in the previous verse, he's never satiated in hearing about the Lord. And we saw in Mukunda Hari Prabhu's presentation yesterday that how just by through the association of devotees, one can attain the highest perfection in life. And he showed us that beautiful picture of Bharat Maharaj in his childhood who was serving the Vedantist and how they got the opportunity to serve. By serving the Vaishnavas, he attained such a um, supreme transcendental position of Narad Muni. So the first point which we should try and discuss in this particular verse is that what Krishna is trying to tell us, that, and what Prabhupada is emphasizing is Krishna is unlimited, but we are not unlimited. It's not possible for us to comprehend the greatness by our limited senses. So we cannot understand the absolute truth through our blunt material senses because of the following four reasons. I mean, majority of you know this, but since this particular verse emphasizes on this point, so I thought it's important to bring this to life, that a lot of times, even when we are trying to understand spiritual matters which are more technical and philosophical or even exalted, we can be satisfied by just thinking that actually, you know what, I was trying to go somewhere which is beyond my conception right now. And we can give ourselves a little bit of a relief that, you know what, I'm still not completely above these four defects, or at least some of those defects. So we as a living entity have defects like, first one is our senses are imperfect. So we may perceive something, we may smell something as a sense of our smell, and we think, okay, let's say in the kitchen something is cooking. Sometimes it happens, you know, like when I was a child, I'm just sharing something simple here. My mother would be cooking like something in the ghee. So when the smell comes, I thought it was my favorite dish. She's making halwa. So I would run down the stairs and look at it. But instead of halwa, she was making upma. So the difference was, instead of sweet, it was a sour thing, but the smell was same, because in the initial stages when you're making the halwa, you're actually frying the suji in the pan until, you know, it becomes a little bit brown. So you can add sugar or water or milk, or depending on whether you're making an upma or a halwa, it can go either way. So that's how our senses are, just to give you a minute example. The second is, we have a tendency to be illusion. So there is a famous story of these 6 blind people who were trying to look at an elephant, and each one of them were trying to feel the elephant, and each of these person was trying to, one person was trying to hold the tail, and he was saying that, oh, the elephant is like a snake, and I can just feel it because I'm holding it. The other person was holding the trunk, and he was saying, oh, elephant is a little bit like this. And then the other person was touching the elephant from the side, and he was saying that, oh, elephant is like a big wall. So like this, we have this tendency to be illusion, because we are not able to see things perfectly, and then we make mistakes. I mean, I don't have to give an example of that. From morning to evening, I make so many mistakes. And fourth, we have a propensity to cheat, actually. So every now and then we like to make, say lie, or come up with things. So because of these four defects, it becomes very difficult for us to really try and appreciate Krishna and understand all his opulences. However, when we come to Shastra Chakshu, or the knowledge of the scriptures, we first of all understand our limitation and begin from that platform praying to the Lord, oh Krishna, you're so kind that now I get an idea that I have these four defects. But is there a hope for me? So Srila Prabhupada gives a very wonderful example. I wanted to read it to all of you. This was covered in a beautiful article in Back to Godhead magazine, uh, for where Srila Prabhupada had given an address to the University of Nairobi in Kenya. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to say about these four defects. And I found it quite uh, very, very relevant, actually, when I was reading it. What are the defects of the conditioned soul? He is sure to commit mistakes, sure to be illusioned, sure to cheat others, and sure to have imperfect senses. We cannot attain knowledge perfectly because we want to cheat others and our senses are imperfect. Although our senses are imperfect, we are very proud of our eyes and we want to see everything. Therefore, someone says, can you show me God? Actually, the answer is yes. Why can't you see God at every moment? Krishna says, Raso aham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of water. Everyone drinks water and the taste is there. So if we think of this taste as God, we begin the process of God realization. Krishna also says, Prabhashmi Shashi Suryo. I am the sunshine and I am the moonshine. We all see the sunshine and moonshine every day. And if we think of how it is the sun and the moon are emanating light, we will ultimately reach God. There are so many similar instances. If you want to be God conscious and realize God yourself, it is not very difficult. You have simply to follow the prescribed methods as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Tato mam tatvata gyatva, um, Tato mam tattva gyatva, Bhagavad Gita 18.55, we must simply try to understand God in truth and try to understand his appearance, disappearance, and functions. When we understand him in truth, we immediately enter the kingdom of God. After quitting this body, the person who understands God or Krishna does not come back again to accept another material body. Krishna says, Mam eti, he comes to me. That is our aim. So Srila Prabhupada is making it very nicely clear that, okay, we understand we have imperfect senses. However, if we are sincere on this path of devotional service and we want to align ourselves with the learnings of the scriptures, then there is an every hope for us, because through these opulences and understanding how Krishna is the taste of water, how he's represented by the sunshine and the moonshine, how he's giving the life to all the vegetables through the moonshine, then we can really begin to appreciate God all around us, actually. And how beautiful is that, to be able to relate everything which has been manifested and which is complete, as we hear in the Ishopanishad first mantra, that everything is Purnam, everything is perfect. The difference between us and Mayavadis are, they say this material world is false, but Prabhupada very clearly emphasizes that the material world is not false, it is temporary, because anything which is created by the God or Lord has to be beautiful. So this creation is beautiful as long as we are able to utilize it in perfecting our life by practicing and utilizing those things for furthering our Krishna consciousness. Okay, just give me one moment. I'm going to look at the another slide. So now we look at in the 19th verse, that then why do devotees try to understand Krishna? Because not on the principle to know Krishna fully at any specific time or any state of life. Rather, topics of Krishna are so relishable, they appear as nectar. Devotees enjoy them and take transcendental pleasure. That is the reason why the devotees try to understand Krishna, is because not that they want to know him completely. As we learn, it's very difficult for us to learn him completely. But if we carry on discussing the topics of Krishna, we will find some kind of relish. Because if you think for a moment, when we are moving around in this world and producing different kind of vibration, like when you're at work, you're talking to your work colleagues something about the work. When you're at school, you're discussing some other subject matter. When you're with friends, you're talking something with your relatives. And not necessarily all these activities are related to Krishna Katha. And what is the result of those conversations which we are having outside our Krishna consciousness is that we become very tired very, very quickly. And we also become very bored, or rather, we find no relishment in such topics actually. So that's why it's very important that we begin to appreciate that we have access to the wonderful pastimes of the Lord, and we have an opportunity uh, to discuss a subject matter which will not only bring us some auspiciousness, but it will bring us an ultimate revolution in our life. In Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Tadvak Visargo Janataka Viplabo, that among so many scriptures, the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they are meant to bring about revolution in the world's misdirected civilization. Prabhupada writes, what a beautiful statement it is. Just think about it for a moment. Prabhupada is saying in the purport that this, or the rather the verse is saying that this literature is meant to bring about revolution in the world's misdirected civilization. I mean, where on the earth are you going to find such a line which gives the direct indication of how glorious these literatures are actually? And devotees enjoy them and they take transcendental pleasure. Otherwise, anything else in the previous verse in the Bhagavatam, it is explained, all of those places are places of becomes a pilgrimage for crow, where crow comes to dirty places, whereas swan, they delight in beautiful sarovars or beautiful lake. So the devotees of the Lord are like swan. They take pleasure in reading Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and materialists, unfortunately, they are compared to crow who pick up magazines and newspaper to understand what's happening in the world. I was watching a video of my spiritual master. In that, he was emphasizing a very nice point. He said, sometimes, even as a practicing devotee, we all have some attachment. And some of us may have an attachment to watch news here and there and to get to know about the world. So Maharaj was saying that because we live in a world, the way the world is today, even if you don't look at the news or hear the news, you will somehow or other get to know what you need to know to maneuver around the world. But if you voluntarily give your reception to these kind of medias or information or newses, then you are unfortunately putting something in your ears which is not going to be very helpful. Because if you think about it, in these days, apart from misery, lamentation, and and different forms of sufferings, there isn't anything much exciting in the news. On the other hand, if you pick up Bhagavad Gita from your room, from your shelf, open the book, read one verse, that has an eternal benefit to you and it will help your consciousness. Even one line of Supreme Personality of Godhead has such an impact on our consciousness. So it's very important that our quality of life is made up of the quality of vibration which goes in our ears. The whatever kind of vibration we will put ourselves against, that's the kind of or the quality of life we will be leading actually. So now, knowing that how wonderful our life can be, we should really dedicate our time and energy to the sweet pastimes of the Lord, because these pastimes are full of nectar. If you just pick up Krishna book and start to read different pastimes of the Lord, you will find that there is so much of a joy in the pastimes of the Lord, so much of variegatedness is there. Like Srila Prabhupada used to say, in the night before you go to bed, read a Krishna book and have a hot glass of milk. Hot milk is very good, it will give you a sound sleep and it's light on the stomach in the night. And then you read Krishna book before you go. So Srila Prabhupada gave us some beautiful instructions actually. And why did he tell us to read Krishna book? So that our mind, which has been agitated during the day, can really calm down. And one day while we are sleeping, by Krishna willing, we may be able to dream about the devotees of the Lord or the Lord himself actually. Because one may think, Prabhuji, you're saying all this. I read Bhagavad Gita, I read Bhagavatam, but I always get different kind of dreams. Well, I also get different kind of dreams. But the fact of the matter is, the reason we get different kind of dreams is because our ears, we've been filling them with so much different kind of garbage throughout our many lives. If you think about it, even in this life, if you take it as an example, so much of vibration goes into our ears, but unfortunately a lot of it is not very conducive, at least in my case. All of you are wonderful Vaishnavas, so I can speak for myself. A lot of time the vibration going in my ears is not sattvic and probably not the best. So, and it's a fact in life, whatever is goes in, that comes out. Whatever is in our heart, that comes out. And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says that the best of the devotee comes on how we tolerate provoking situations in our life. Each one of us go through some provoking situation. So for many lives, because of so much of dirt is there in our heart, that can only be cleansed through the holy name and through these pastimes of the Lord. And the more we read, hear, and glorify these pastimes, you will notice a not only subtle, a very obvious difference in your consciousness. You will notice as the time goes by, there will be a time when you will be able to dream about your spiritual master. You'll be able to dream about the devotees. You will be able to dream about your Shiksha gurus. And lo and behold, one day you may even be able to dream about the Supreme Personality of Godhead actually. Because these pastimes are like very strong impressions in our life. So whatever impressions, it's like our memory is bit like a camera. I'm just trying to think of an analogy. Maybe that's the best way to describe, like how camera can capture so many pictures. So similarly, our consciousness or the mind, because it has so many pictures of so many lifetimes, it keeps bringing those pictures to us. And Srila Prabhupada talks about it. He says a lot of these dreams which we see have has to do something with our past. Either that activity or something to that related has happened. That's why those impressions are in our heart. But I'm sure all of you will agree with me that our life's desire should actually, our whole objective or our the way of life should be so that we can change those impression through higher taste. Param drishtava nivartante. Srila Prabhupada says, in order to give up the lower taste, you need higher taste. So in order for us to give up those lower impressions, it's very important that we take to the higher taste, which is these beautiful pastimes of the Lord. And here is a little message from Srila Prabhupada where he's saying that Bhagavad Gita is the instruction given by Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the book containing topics exclusively about Krishna and his devotees. These two books are special nectar of the words of Krishna. This is directly from a purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 7th chapter, 44th verse. So we can see that how wonderful we have been having this opportunity, that there is a direct nectar coming from these books. We may not be able to see it right now. That's because, as I said, because of the vibration which has gone in our ears and the pictures our heart or mind has captured for many, many lives. But even if you just keep looking at these pictures, read a little bit about them, you will start to bring about revolution in our life actually. That is why you see it's very natural for many of us who have read novels, many things for that matter. We have a natural inclination to go back to those things. But to pick up a Bhagavad Gita and read one chapter or one verse, it can be an austerity for many of us. But all I can say, ladies and gentlemen, that it is an austerity worth taking, because sometimes we can hear, okay, it's going to bring us an ultimate good. I pick up the book and I read, and our life will get completely transformed. And it has happened for so many devotees actually. And let's see now what Lord Brahma's predicament here is. So let's see what Lord Brahma is trying to tell us. He's saying also in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.7, there is a prayer by Brahma: O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world? You are always expanding your eternal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. Look at this beautiful prayer of Lord Brahma. He's saying he's learned a lesson, obviously. He himself could not see how wonderful Lord Krishna is when he stole all the calves and the cows and the cowherd boys. And only a year later, he learned a lesson that what a mistake he did, knowing that how wonderful the Lord is. And now he's admitting that the scientists, even the learned scholar, they can't examine the atomic constitution of material world, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency. Imagine, I mean, they may be able to have some idea and calculate, okay, what's atomic constitution, but they cannot get anywhere close to really understanding how these different energies are working so wonderfully in Krishna's kingdom. And now we will see the last point from this purport. So let's recap quickly. The point number A was that our senses are unlimited, that we have these 4 defects. So with these defects, we have to take shelter of the scriptures, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And by taking that shelter, we will have some hope of then reading and understanding these beautiful pastimes of the Lord. And those pastimes will help us change our chitta, or those samskars or impressions in our heart, which have been there for many lifetimes, so we can appreciate the beautiful, sweet, nectarian pastimes of the Lord. And finally, the importance of the word pradhanayata, which is the word principle, which means Krishna knows the limits of the living entities and therefore agrees to state only the principal manifestation of his different energies. So Krishna very well understands that we can't take much. So he gives us what we can take. So that's what he's telling Arjuna. Listen, I can, even when he was showing his Virat form, I'll show you, but are you sure you're ready for it in a way? And when he showed him, Arjuna was completely overwhelmed and bewildered. He said, my Lord, I can't take your form like this. I want to see your beautiful 2-arm form having a flute in his hand. That's what more is more beautiful to me. So we see that how also in one sense, what are those some of the things which makes us not as potent as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the soul, the human beings are called Jivatmas, and Lord Krishna's or the God is called Paramatma. We are called Anu, which means infinitesimal, and the Lord is Vibhu, which is infinite. So what that means is we in as a soul who is there in our body is only aware of our this particular body and what we are doing, and it's conscious. Whereas God in the form of Paramatma is completely aware of not only our past life, our present life, our future life, but everyone's else life. He's cognizant of everyone and everything. Whereas the soul is only cognizant of one's own body. And finally, our nature is Jivera Sarup Hoye Krishnera Nityadas, that we are the eternal servant of Lord Krishna, a loving servitor. And Krishna is eternally a loving master. So I remember Prabhupada one time he was having a morning walk and he asked some of the devotees that he looked at a dog who had a band around his neck, and he said, "What is the difference between this dog and the dog on the streets?" Who So everybody was trying to think, because everyone with Prabhupada, you got to be careful in what you say, because whatever you say, Srila Prabhupada will smash your argument and bring about an ultimate beautiful answer, which will completely satisfy everybody. So everybody thought it's wise to keep quiet and let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to say. And Prabhupada said the difference between these dogs and the dogs on the street is that this dog has a master, whereas others don't. And this is a story which is also foretold by His Holiness Bhakticharu Maharaj many times, and in many other Vaishnavas or disciples of Srila Prabhupada, where they revealed their mood that I'm like a dog, Srila Prabhupada. I did not know where to go, what to do, but somehow you picked me up, and you're my master now. So that's how we are. We are very well protected. We are in the best place when we are in the hand of God. Whereas if we want to exercise our minute independence for our own satisfaction, then that's not the best utilization of our human form of life. And finally, the word vibhuti is being described here, which refers to the opulences by which he controls the whole manifestation, and it indicates an exceptional opulence. The last word, vibhuti, which Prabhupada emphasized in the purport. So, knowing the supreme controller, just as the driver of a bullock cart ties ropes through the nostrils of his bulls to control them, the supreme personality of Godhead binds all men through the ropes of his words in the Vedas, which set forth the names and activities of the distinct orders of human society like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. In fear, the members of these orders all worship the Supreme Lord by offering him presentations according to their respective activities. From Bhagavatam 6.3.13. So that just explains and brings this very important point, that how we've been bound by these ropes, but the scriptures are giving us a way by practicing gradually through the varna, the ashrams, like how the society which has been created by the Lord, we can make a gradual advancement in Krishna consciousness. So the word vibhuti here refers to the opulences by which the Lord controls the whole manifestation. So here a nice example is given that how the Lord is controlling us through the ropes of his words in the Vedas, which set forth the names and activities of the distinct orders. So these orders are created by the Lord. So if we cooperate, align ourselves with the vibration coming from the Lord and his devotees, then our life will be of a great significance, and we will be able to go back to spiritual world. So once again, 4 important points from the purport. 1, we are unlimited. We talked about the 4 defects. Why do the devotees try to understand Krishna? Because they know they can't know him in full, but they relish and they want to take advantage and enjoy the transcendental pleasure of the sweet pastimes of the Lord. And the word pradhanaya, which explains that how we are minute and the Lord is omnipotent, omniscient. And finally, the word vibhuti, which Prabhupada emphasized. So I shared this example, the purport from Srimad Bhagavatam. I mean, there were some nice points from this purport I wanted to kind of bring light, because I feel it's much better to focus on what Srila Prabhupada is saying rather than bringing my own ideas. I mean, that's what most devotees try to do. So I hope this was helpful for all of you. And I'd like to stop here and open up for any reflections. Reflection is not a question. It is an idea or a concept which stuck in your mind from the monologue or from the purport, which you can reflect back, and that helps us remember, or you can even ask questions, as my son Sridham is saying. Absolutely. So let me stop sharing the file. So feel free to unmute yourself or send me a message in the chat, whatever you prefer. I have a message. Yes, Hare Krishna, Rajshri Mataji. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Is it possible at all, I don't know whether this is a silly question or not, but please forgive me if it is. Is it possible for an average person to know the Supreme Controller in one lifetime? If it is not, what sort of devotee or what kind of devotee would be able to understand the Supreme Controller in one lifetime?
Sure, Mataji. That's a very good question you asked.
Thank you.
And the answer to that question is, Mataji, I will give it on the basis of what Srila Prabhupada said rather than me saying. And I would say, yes, it is possible, because Srila Prabhupada said that many times on many occasions. He said, if you sincerely take to the process I've given you, read Bhagavad Gita, chant the 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, associate with devotees, then you can go back in this very life actually. And it is possible, Mataji. It all depends on our how intense, how greedy are we, as Rupa Goswami said, how much volume we have. And to answer your question further, Srila Prabhupada always said that that impossible is a word in fool's dictionary, and that was proved many times correct even while Srila Prabhupada was walking the planet. And I'll give you a small example. One time while Srila Prabhupada was, he was always in the mood of urgency to give Krishna consciousness to others in anything he did, from his morning walk to eating prasadam while taking massage, speaking to the devotees, answering the letters. He was constantly thinking or doing or behaving in such a way that he was teaching every single moment while he was walking the planet, Mataji. So one time, as Srila Prabhupada was walking on the beach with his disciples, uh, at that time, I think Yogeshwar Prabhu and many other devotees were there who was working with BBT, with the new press. And Prabhupada asked him, okay, how long will you take to finish my Chaitanya Charitamrita, printing, and how long will it take editing and everything else? So this disciple of Srila Prabhupada said, he did a quick calculation and he said something around, I think, I don't know what, 6 months or 9 months, I can't remember the timing. And Prabhupada said, I want it to be finished in 1 month. And somebody from behind said, that's impossible, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada took his stick and put it in the sand, and he was so grave, and he turned around and he said, impossible is a word in fool's dictionary. And then few other disciples around said, Prabhupada, we will try to do it. And again, Prabhupada was not happy until he heard that they will do it, Srila Prabhupada. And when they went back, they were all bewildered that why did they agree to such a proposition, that it is just not practically possible for them to do it. But when they thought, now that we are given the word to Prabhupada, and they started praying, we're going to try to do it. Every devotee came together and they worked 24 hours. The press was working in the night, in the day, for those 28, 29 days. And what looked impossible was made possible. Prabhupada arrived in Boston. He went to the press and he looked at the work. And then the devotees who were there to actually experience that smile on Srila Prabhupada's face is just unfathomable. You just cannot compare it. When Prabhupada saw the work was done, and that goes to shows that that was the sincerity of those devotees. They knew that Srila Prabhupada's heart is all about a lot about his books, not all, but a majority of his life was about his books. And that's why we see these wonderful examples like His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who we are glorifying these days. And every offering I've been hearing, each devotee is been speaking and saying, among so much of contribution of Maharaj, his one of his beautiful and the most dear contribution to Srila Prabhupada was transcribing Srila Prabhupada's books in Bengali language. My Guru Maharaj, when he heard about this, he went to take his blessings of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He met him there, they're god brothers. And seeing so much of work being done, Maharaj was so happy. So that goes to shows that and you see, this is all about empowerment. So when we pray and try to put our effort, then empowerment comes from the top, all the way from our Guru Parampara Mataji, and then anything is possible. We just have to be sincere. Sorry, I gave a long answer, but somehow I felt inspired to share that story.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Anybody?
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, I think Krishna, I don't remember the exact words, but Krishna did say that so many strive to get him, but then after so many try, only su Paramatma su durlabha, something
Yes.
like that. So
Yes, Mataji.
it's, how does that correlate with what you've just told us?
Yes, so well, the verse is there that among many people, there is only one who gets to know, and among so many people who are trying to know Krishna, only one knows him in perfection. So that one could also be taken in the sense, Mataji, that if you look at the population of the world right now, and if you look at how many people are trying to be God conscious, and among those who are trying to be God conscious, how many are actually have some understanding of what is the most sublime and the best perfect way to perfect the life? Actually, Prabhupada always encouraged, he said, even, I do apologize, I'm sorry Mataji for the background noise, just give me 1 minute, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, even so, Prabhupada always encouraged all the religions that as long as you're trying to love God and following your religion correctly, it will help you evolve as an individual. But to come to Krishna consciousness is very, very rare, because we heard those 4 things from Sutapa Prabhu, that one becomes fortunate, he has how we understand and appreciate how expansive this knowledge is, and how wonderful and eternal, and this knowledge is related for all time, place, and circumstances. So that's why if you look at right now the population and see, maybe 0.1% people are Krishna consciousness. So that's how rare it is, Mataji, from that point of view. But somehow or other, you have now come closer to Prabhupada, you've come closer to Krishna consciousness. So you can be Sa Mahatma Sudulabha. You very much can become that Mahatma, Mataji. Anybody can, as long as we are able to follow the path, take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, then then it is very much possible. And that was the desire of all these Vaishnavas like Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Everybody wants. Prabhupada said so many things, he said so many times, but one thing he did say, that I want you all to become pure devotees and go back to the spiritual world. And we are lucky, because it's been put on to us on our plate, Mataji. If you think about it, Prabhupada books are so commonsensical. When you read them and you develop a little bit of taste, you will get to know that, you know what, there is a hope for me going back to spiritual world. And that's the kind of enthusiasm and determination we need to show in order for us to make our way back, Pratibha Mataji.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Divya.
Hare Krishna, Palika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Very nourishing class. It was really, I really nourished the way you explained everything. It was really nice. And I just want to just mention about chanting.
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
I was reading one of Shriram Maharaj's little book on chanting the holy name.
Jai.
He also mentioned there that, our heart is full of anartha, unwanted thing in our heart.
Yes.
And Srila Prabhupada says, when it's about 75%, our heart is purified from all the anarthas. Actually, we can feel Krishna. We will be chanting Krishna's name all the time, because we got so much anartha in our heart. That's stopping us not to feel Krishna, talk about Krishna. So when we do it sincerely, steady, that is the steady state, Srila Prabhupada says, when all the anarthas are eradicated from our heart, 75%, we can feel Krishna, we can see Krishna within our heart. So it's so important about the chanting. Chanting is the only thing can help us. Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam, and more we do chant, and it will help us to read and go into Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And that way we can get purified. You really brought so many nice points. I really, really relish. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your constant encouragement, Palika Mataji. You are such a wonderful devotee. You are reflecting what you see in your heart. That's what is coming out. So I don't have any of such nice thing what you're saying, but because it's there in you, you're seeing it in others. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
My humble obeisances, Prabhuji. I just wanted to share a realization, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
Prabhuji, whenever I think of Casey and whenever I listen to any Vaishnava class, I kind of sometimes feel like the movie Matrix. Morpheus is like Prabhupada and Keanu Reeves is like disciples. So Morpheus always says, stick to the goal, stick to the process.
Yes.
And they also eat, the diet that they eat is also bland food. They can't eat anything else.
Yes.
If you stick to the process, then you can come out of that illusory world. So those guys dressed in black, I kind of always feel that that's the illusion. And you have to get out of the illusion.
Yeah, that's very nice point, Mataji. Thank you. His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu says something nice. It always sticks in me. Whenever we all go through lows, ups and downs in our life, sometimes sometimes my chanting is not great. But one thing which is always encouraging is when I remember the statement of my spiritual master. He says that nobody can claim to be permanently disqualified. And that is so enlivening. And I think, you know what, actually that's so right, Maharaj. And I'm not going to be disqualified, because one, I've been given this privilege to come in the Guru Parampara. You've been so kind to me. Srila Prabhupada is there. His books are available. So many wonderful devotees are there. And what I'm going through is nothing in comparison of the what the other world is actually kind of going through. So that is very true what you said, Mataji. We have to stick to the process. And sometimes it's like Rupa Goswami gives the example that, in order to, what do we have to do? Like how when somebody like is trying to inherit a wealth of his father, it is said he simply has to stay alive. So similarly, for us to inherit this beautiful wealth of Krishna consciousness, somehow or other we have to stay alive in our Krishna consciousness, taking association from each other and conversing about, Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. And then we can make our way back to spiritual world just by hanging in there, as we call it, Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, I would like to just quickly do what we now